Hello everybody, welcome back to another light novel review. Today I am talking about volume number 1 in Nisio Isin's light novel series, Bakemonogatari. This is part 1 of Monster Tale. Now, in this volume we have two separate stories. The first involves a girl named Senjugahara. Now, she is very aloof. She just sort of stays in the back of the class. She doesn't really participate. She is quite ill. She's away from school often. She's unable to participate in any of the physical education courses. And Araragi, our main character, he realizes that even though this is the third year in a row she's been in his class, he's never even said a single word to her. It isn't until the day that he discovers she has a very dark and unusual secret. A secret that, because of his encounter with a vampire, Araragi thinks he may be uniquely qualified to help her with. In the second story, we meet a young girl named Hachikuji. And Hachikuji, it's Mother's Day, and she's trying to go and visit her mom. The only problem being, she just keeps getting lost. Naturally, our main character Araragi is the man on the scene and decides to help yet again another damsel in distress. If you're not overly familiar with the Monogatari series and you're coming to this book after having read Kizu Monogatari, I think, like me, you're going to be a little bit surprised. I don't want to talk at extensive length about sort of a comparison of these two. That's a whole other thing. In fact, I may be doing an article about that. I'll talk about that a little later in the video. But for a book that in Kizu seemed to have a very good mix of action, plot, character, dialogue, and so forth, Bakemonogatari, this volume, it almost feels at times like the quote-unquote plot is just an excuse to write pages and pages and pages of dialogue. There's not really a lot of action. And in fact, most of the events that happen seem to be just a way of shifting the characters to a new location so they can have new discussions with one another. It sort of reminds me of like a writing exercise where you say to yourself, okay, I've come up with a couple of really cool characters and I want them to talk. And I want to just write free-flowing dialogue and see where that goes. And you just come up with a really basic plot of how these characters get together. At least, you know, a topic that will give them something to start talking to each other. And then you let them go for about 80 pages. And then you, for like 15 or 20 pages, decide to wrap up the main problem that brought them together in the first place. If you're not into that, you will probably not be thrilled by this book. I have to admit, like, even myself, I blazed through Kizu. I couldn't put it down. And even this, it took me a while. It took me a while to get through. And I think part of that is because even though I think the translator did a very good job, Vertical seems to be probably one of the better publishers in terms of eliminating typos and stuff. I won't say it's 100% free, but in general, their translations seem to be fairly decent. They're free of many typos and grammatical errors. The problem with a series like this is that you clearly have an author who is absolutely in love with wordplay and is at his height when he's having characters speak to one another and playing off of each other's words. In general, I think the translator did a decent job of making this work in English, but I still can't help but feeling like I'm missing out on some of it because it's not in Japanese. In fact, there's even points where Araragi kind of breaks that fourth wall and points out how things have been spelled or written in the book. And I imagine that probably played a bigger part in the Japanese text where, because of the writing system in Japan, there are a lot of puns and stuff that can be built into how you write, say, someone's name or how you write the name of a place. It's just not similar to English, which, well, our written English is fairly blunt. I mean, it has a bunch of stupid rules and it contradicts itself all the time. But I mean, if you want to say blue sky, you say blue sky. And there isn't like 4 different characters you can use for the word blue that may imply something else, and 5 different words you can use for sky that may imply, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't read it as blue sky. I mean, I don't know how to really put it. It's, unless you look into it, and even I am by no means an expert. I still work on how to pronounce a lot of the Japanese names and stuff so that I don't sound like a total fool when I'm talking to you guys. But nonetheless, I kind of get the feeling like, as an English reader, I'm missing out on some of the jokes, that I'm missing out on some of the more subversive and clever bits that certainly were written and intended for a Japanese audience. But does that mean that the book is horrible? Well, no, and maybe yes, I guess, depending on what kind of reader you are. If you read light novels because for the most part they have a lot of action, they're very fast moving, you will probably find yourself disappointed. This is not, if you haven't figured it out already, that kind of book. If, on the other hand, you really enjoy these very interesting characters and verbal sparring and the odd, really kind of insightful comment, or, well, there was some genuinely good, like, character moments and emotions expressed. I mean, if you like that kind of thing, you're going to find this to be a very different light novel than a lot of the other ones that are out on the market, and you will probably enjoy it. You just have to understand what you're going into. When you've got a book that says monster tale, at least in North American audience, and I mean, okay, this is probably us being spoiled North Americans because Hollywood and a lot of other media have dumbed us down. But when you hear monster tale, you kind of think like monsters, action, fighting, major conflict, potentially earth-shattering, and like, no, that's not this book. This book is a lot quieter, a lot more contemplative, and as I said, it's really written for the purpose of these characters talking to each other, as opposed to telling some intricate plot. Like Kizu, it has sort of this air of melancholy and bittersweetness to it. There's these moments that are endearing and touching, but at the same time, there always seems to be this bit of loss and this bit of longing. And you can sort of look at it in this philosophy. It really is written in this sort of philosophy of everybody wins, but everybody loses, and you can't really win completely. And that makes it feel a lot different, even with the whole emphasis on dialogue, makes it feel a lot different than a lot of the other light novels that have been released in the English language market so far. So, Bakemonogatari, it is an acquired taste, maybe. It is not going to be for every fan of anime or manga. It is definitely not even going to be for every fan of light novels. You really have to be a very specific kind of person, I think, to enjoy this book. And it's certainly not a comment about you as a person or even about the book itself. It's just to say that different books appeal to different audiences. And this one in particular, I would say, is probably exactly that. I can see where some people will absolutely love this book and others will utterly hate it. I don't think there's going to be a lot of middle ground on this one. And even if you really enjoyed Kizu Monogatari, even it had a whack ton more action and plot than this one, which kind of surprised me, seeing as how it's the same author, and even like a lot of the plot details from Kizu are discussed in Bakemonogatari because it's set after Kizu. So I don't really know what else to say other than that. I mean, I enjoyed, certainly, there were quite a few parts that I enjoyed in the book. There were some moments that just I thought were being drawn out just to try and prove how clever Nisio Isin is. I didn't think that it was really serving a whole lot for the characters or for the plot, but I'm guessing that's kind of his thing. So, Bakemonogatari, I can recommend it with a whole lot of caveats and a whole lot of if, maybes, buts. So, it's at your own risk. I mean, if you've got Crunchyroll, maybe you want to stream like the first episode at least of the anime, because I'm thinking the anime is that's obviously based on this. So I'm thinking like if you watch even just a first episode of the anime and sort of see the pace that it moves at, it might give you at least an idea about whether you want to throw your dollars into this series. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that I may be doing a little bit more on Bakemonogatari. There is a website called EnglishLightNovels.com. I'm fairly certain that I have mentioned it, probably in my Q&A video, and I know in the comments I've directed some of you towards it. It's a fantastic reference and a website that when I was first getting into light novels, I found super useful. I still go back to it all the time when I'm looking at like my pull lists and stuff, and the guy who runs it, Cho, he's really, really a great reference and a great resource. And we've had some good discussions. Well, for Bakemonogatari, he currently has a article on the website. I'll leave a link down in the description where if you're reading the book, you can sort of comment as you go. It's sort of like an open discussion forum. And he and I are going to collaborate on an article about Bakemonogatari. We're kind of ironing out the details about exactly how we're going to approach it. One of the ideas we had talked about was really taking a look at how it compares to Kizu Monogatari, and I'm thinking that might be an angle we take. I'm going to put a link for that down in the description when that article goes live. It'll probably be at least another couple of weeks because I'm kind of really behind and just finishing reading the novel. So, like I said, right now, if you want to go to the open discussion one, you can. If you're watching this video later on and you want to check out that article, look down in the description. I should have that down there as well. So those are my thoughts on volume 1 of Bakemonogatari, another volume that's like really has me conflicted. I'm finding like that seems to be becoming more and more of a thing with light novels. Some that I'm conflicted because of the quality, but in this one, it's more a conflict because of the actual choices for the storytelling itself. And, you know, it's not like I can blanket statements saying, oh yeah, if you like light novels, you'll love this one. There's a whole lot of discussion about pros and cons about this type of series and the audience that it's going to be appropriate for. So for my next review, I'm going to be reviewing a series that I generally find most light novel fans seem to like, and that is volume number 7 of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? This is one series that I pretty much say every single time when I finish a volume, like, wow, this series is getting better and better as it goes along. And look at the size of this thing. Like, it's also getting hella longer than, like, take a look at, this is Bakemonogatari next to, like, monstrous compared to, like, your average light novels. But anyway, that's going to be my next review, is volume number 7 of Danmachi, or Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? I'm hoping to have that one up in a couple of days. Sorry, like, you know, with the holidays, and I've picked up a lot of overtime at work to pay those holiday bills, so I haven't been putting out as many videos as I've been hoping. So I'm kind of hoping we'll get back on track because we're almost, two-thirds through January, so hopefully things will settle down. So if you like what I do here, don't forget to hit a like on this video. If you're brand new to the channel, subscribe for all of my future light novel reviews. If you want to check out some of my older reviews, I've got a link to those as well. Thanks again for watching the video. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.